Hello there, men, and welcome to the Masculinism Movement channel, a place for men to be empowered in their masculinity in an anti-male age. I'm your host, Brian Crawl, and today I am going to be beginning a very deep dive into the topic of red flags in women. You know, this is something that I've seen talked about a lot online, but it's more often talked about by women and in completely bogus ways. So I, coming from a social science background, wanted to create a very definitive list of red flags in dating for men out there. All right, for those of you who are unable or unwilling to give up on dating and relationships, it's important to know what signs to look for that will indicate that it's simply not possible with a girl. Even a short-term relationship will not work with anyone who displays any one of these red flags, and I guarantee you that if you ignore it, more will come and you will be in for trouble. So watch out for these. This is going to be a very thorough and extensive list of red flags that I'll be educating you on over a series of 4 videos illustrating the types of things that will come up over the course of different stages of dating. Starting with level 1 today, the red flags that you should be able to notice in someone right away, like soon after meeting, maybe even when you first meet or on the first date. All right, so let's start with people who you might meet on a dating site. First of all, let's address the girls who don't even bother filling out their profiles and writing anything about themselves at all. This probably goes without saying, but just in case it doesn't, if their dating profile hasn't been filled out whatsoever, it means they have no personality and are just an NPC, so don't even bother with them, even if they are hot. Or similarly, if it's been filled out but not very much and with extremely stereotypical and cliche lines that you've seen many times before in other profiles, like it's almost just like a copy and paste type of thing, such as her saying she's looking for a, quote, partner in crime or something like that. Again, she's an NPC. Don't bother. You really shouldn't be fucking with women who don't have a personality and are just regurgitating lines they heard elsewhere. And then the new thing that some women are putting into their profiles on Tinder is that they are big into mental health awareness. Ooh, wow, yeah. That sounds like she has a lot of integrity, right? But what it basically means is that they suffer from mental illness or illnesses and have made that central to their personality. And it's a lot of what you're going to be hearing about and dealing with from them. So avoid those girls like the plague. Next, if you meet them on a dating app or site and they say they are just looking for friends, just say no thank you. There's something wrong with those kinds of women. And back when I was doing online dating and women would say this to me, I used to ask them, well, don't you have any friends? And they'd say yes. And I'd say, okay, so why don't you date them? And they'd say, because I don't think of them like that. They are just my friends. And I'd say, exactly. People don't date their friends. So why are you coming on a dating site to put people on the friend zone when you don't even date the friends you've already got? Any woman who puts you in the friend zone, even if she says you have some kind of potential and wants to just be friends first and then see where it goes in the future because she isn't looking for anything serious right now, she's just not worth it. She is leading you on at best. So don't become an orbiter to any of these women. It is not a potential friend or mate you're dealing with. These women do not make good friends, and it's never going to turn into anything more. All it is a red flag. She's fucked up, and doesn't know what she really wants and is definitely planning on just using you and trying to simp you out without even giving you any pussy. It's like being a reverse pimp or something. And then the next red flag is big age differences. If there's about a decade or more of an age difference, or even almost a decade, like maybe 7 or 8 years, this may seem hot in a sense, but in the end, it's not going to be. It's going to be a problem. If you're a guy in your 20s and you're trying to fuck an older MILF, it may seem sexy until you reach that post-nut clarity, and eventually you're going to have to face the fact that what you're doing is actually kind of psychologically sick, that you have mommy issues, and who knows what kind of issues this woman has. You know, she may be a sexual predator for all you know. And as you get older and start dating more seriously and looking for a relationship that is going to be more mature in nature, you need to realize that if, for instance, you're a 40-year-old man like me, you may not be able to make it work with even a 30-year-old woman, let alone a woman in her late 20s, like even a 28-year-old. In fact, if you're a 30-year-old man, you may not even be able to make it work with a 22-year-old woman, let alone an 18 or 20-year-old. Those years add up. Just 5 years of aging does a lot to a person and makes it harder for them to relate to people 5+ years their junior. And at a decade or more, those people just seem childish and silly. It's hard to take them seriously. And even if they are more mature and intelligent and beyond their years, you two will still be at different stages of your life. If you're a 40-year-old like me, it's still natural to be attracted to women who are 20, and you may jerk off to porn of women who are about that age. But when it comes to dating and having a real relationship, you have got to be honest with yourself that women who are 20 are half of your age and haven't even really experienced adulthoods yet. So, even if they seem smart for their age, their brains haven't finished developing yet, and they are technically still children, and you two are at different places in life and just won't get along when it comes to the long run. In fact, they may only be fucking with you because they want you to pay for them like some kind of sugar daddy, and that's just fucking gross. In the end, people end up pair bonding with those who have less than a 5-year age difference and are within just a few years of their age. In fact, statistics have shown that most couples only have a 2-year age difference, if any at all. So you can forget about having a relationship with that older or younger girl who you are hot for. If she seduces you and you fuck her, that's one thing, but just leave it at a one-night stand. And that's only if one of them seduces you, all right? And as for seducing a younger girl as an older guy, forget about it. What are you trying to do? Get Me Too'd? You don't even want to fuck with Gen Z, honestly, if you're not one yourself. I mean, even Gen Z themselves can't date other Gen Z, but as a millennial, I guarantee you, Gen Z has too much social anxiety and have been indoctrinated with too much woke feminism, and they are too sex negative. So they probably think that any male advances are predatory, especially if they're coming from an older guy. All right. Now, moving on, catfishing. If a woman's dating profile or social media profile, if that's where you're meeting her, which you shouldn't, I'll get to that later, misrepresents what they look like having photos that make them look like a sexy model, and then when they show up, they are actually very plain and average looking, or worse, having photos that do not even honestly depict how overweight they are, or having photos that are extremely outdated. For instance, I've been on online dating sites where I will see women who I used to know from 10 years ago using photos that are at least that old. I mean, that is extremely deceptive, using a decade or more old photo. Or if they have written about themselves in their personality on their profile in a way that completely misrepresents their character, claiming to be someone they really aren't, and you find out, they aren't really like that. If any of these things happen, they are a catfish, and you should not proceed with the date, all right? As soon as you find out that a woman has misrepresented herself in her online profile, you need to leave and then block them and report them, all right? You may actually be entering a dangerous situation, so don't even try to get a one-night stand out of it, even if she's fuckable, all right? You just do not want to get catfished, okay? Next red flag, if a woman is overweight, and I mean, if she's any more than just slightly overweight in the right places, meaning her ass and tits, then that's a sign of multiple bad things, such as poor genes, health problems, impulse control, and other psychological issues, as well as the fact that she won't even bother taking care of her body and her health. And so you can't expect her to take care of and have a healthy relationship, or to be able to take care of your body or a baby's body if you were to have one. And while a lot of fat people are into body positivity and demand to be respected for being fat and even called beautiful and treated well, the irony is that they aren't treating themselves well or respecting their own body. So why should you be expected to treat her body with more care than she is? And also keep in mind that the body positivity thing is only for women. And that if you yourself as a man aren't overweight and an overweight girl is into you, she probably wouldn't be if you yourself were overweight. Okay, that body positivity only goes one way. It's a double standard. There's actually multiple double standards at work there. All right. And you might be thinking to yourself that you don't want to be superficial, and, sometimes you just need to get laid, and that fat girls probably wouldn't be superficial, and not as superficial as fit girls. But you're wrong. Fat girls are just as shallow, vapid, and narcissistic as hot girls. And you might be thinking that fat girls will be more appreciative and nicer and generous lovers too, if you as a non-fat person get with them. And you are right, they will be temporarily, just up until the point when you commit to them. And then once they feel like they've got you locked into a relationship, you'll find it was all just part of a big seduction, and that they are actually treacherous and mentally ill. And they may then really let themselves go after that and get even fatter and turn into a serious slob too. I know, because I've been with women of all sizes, and including 3 obese women. And I can tell you that the fatter ones do not compensate for their weight by being better girlfriends. Okay. They may compensate for it through being very seductive and good sexually at first, but they're also going to compensate through things such as narcissism, predatory seduction methods, and even being more manipulative than most girls, and doing evil things like pregnancy trapping you, which is exactly how I became a father. The fat girls I dated were more emotionally and physically abusive too. So I highly recommend staying away from any girls you'd call more than just a little voluptuous or curvy in the right areas, like an hourglass figure, not having a curvy stomach, all right? These girls may have very soft, tight, pillowy pussies and make very enthusiastic and generous lovers and know how to please a man, but it won't last long. They have highly toxic personalities due to serious psychological issues. They often have personality disorders. And so allowing yourself to be seduced by them is like falling into a big fat trap. So don't be a chubby chaser. Date healthy women who take care of themselves exclusively, as they are the only ones whose genes should be replicated. Next red flag, if they are hot, but not in the sense of a natural beauty, but rather they are extremely done up and seem to have put a lot of effort into their looks and use a lot of makeup and products, like hair products too. These women who look extremely hot, but extremely done up, like to the point where they look fake, like plasticky, have probably spent about 2 hours of time on their hair and makeup and such. All right, I know because I dated one of these girls out in Vegas. And, these types of girls, you'll notice they always have to wear something sexually alluring and revealing, sometimes even to like job interviews and such, like no matter what they're doing. And so you'll find that though they may be attractive, they're extremely superficial about appearances, very fake, and don't seem to have a good personality or any inner beauty. Because what you're dealing with is a narcissist who objectifies herself because she's learned to use her sexuality in order to garner attention and power from men. And you are only going to be just one of a myriad of men who she does this with. And it's not going to stop with her just having a sexy self-image, all right? This type of woman is a sex object. She does identify as being a sex object who will use sex to get things from men in a transactional fashion. And, if you sleep with her, it's not going to be just you who she's sleeping with, all right? And if she does actually sleep over, you're going to notice that the makeup just comes off all over the pillow, and you'll wake up with a person next to you who you don't even recognize with a much different and uglier face, right? And this is the type of woman who will try to get you locked down, but won't be loyal to you, and will always be trying to sleep with other guys of higher status, like her boss, in order to get more. All right. The next red flag, if they refer to themselves as a princess, queen, or goddess, or act like it, and claim that they need to be spoiled, act like a brat, or do anything of that sort, such as making a big deal of their birthday and calling it their birthday week or birthday month, or talking about being daddy's girl or mommy's girl, right? Or saying things like, I shouldn't have to tell you what I want. You should just know. Just expecting you to cater to them, acting extremely entitled, these sorts of things, you have to run. Another red flag, making very little to no eye contact, avoiding eye contact or only making it for just a split second and then looking away, not being able to hold it for very long. This is a sign of neurosis, and she will be incapable of any kind of connection or intimacy. And I don't recommend you continue the conversation with a girl like this, all right? Trying to become sexual with her is a dangerous game. She's the type of girl who will probably feel so insecure and intimidated by intimacy that she might file false rape charges. Also, similarly, if you catch a girl rolling her eyes sometimes, even if it's not directly at you, but it's like she turns away so you don't see her do it, but you caught her out of the corner of her eye, this is a bad sign. It means she's thinking very unfavorable things about you and probably has a very bad attitude towards you. And who knows why she's even talking to you, like, what she's using you for. The last girl I dated would do this, and she ended up being one of the worst, most treacherous girls I ever dated. So don't take eye rolling lightly, even if she says that she doesn't mean it. It doesn't mean anything. It's involuntary or whatever. It does mean something. Another one, rebounding. Having just got out of a long-term relationship within the last few months or so, don't be the rebound for a girl. If she's trying to move on very quickly, it just means she's a serial monogamist, okay? And that's a bad sign. It really means that she's probably a very needy, codependent type and will be very clingy and cause drama. The next one, if she has ever been married or divorced before, she's likely to keep trying to get married and then divorced again and again, and probably is not actually loyal or wife material and may just consider marriage and divorce to be a job or a grift. Another red flag is having ever cheated before, including just making out, right? Or anything. Even if they act like it's no big deal, like women will say, oh, well, I made out with a guy before, but that's no big deal. I mean, it's not the same as like having sex or giving him a blowjob or anything like that. But you did exchange fluids with someone. You could have certainly gotten mouth herpes and then passed that on to your boyfriend. Kissing is a form of intimacy. It is, in a sense, sexual because of the fact that it's fluid exchange. So, yeah, it does count. And her acting like it's no big deal is like adding another red flag on top of that. Another one, having a dog or cat or pet who she refers to as her baby and claims to be the mother of, or worse, acts like it's their substitute boyfriend, and like they have some sort of inappropriate intimacy with it, which is many women these days who own pets and will then not be emotionally available or logistically available for dating because of their pet. I've seen girls write things in their dating profiles like, I love my dog more than I'll ever love you. The last girl I dated actually bought a dog and then suddenly barely had any time for me. Women these days are replacing real intimate relationships like husbands and children with pets, and it's extremely sick and inappropriate. So be very wary of women who have pets at all and try to find out if they have an inappropriate level of intimacy with it that would interfere with her being emotionally or logistically available for you. Speaking of which, the next red flag is being unavailable, either emotionally or situationally, which a lot of women who claim to want a relationship and be trying to date actually are. They're really just looking for validation to see if they can get any guys interested in them, which, doesn't mean it will then go anywhere. All right. If a person doesn't have much time in their schedule, there's no point in even trying to date them. I was just connecting with a woman who I found out was putting herself through cosmology school and working 3 jobs and is a mother on top of that. So I was just, as soon as I found that out, I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Obviously, there's no point in me even continuing to try to rizz this girl up. If they say they're putting themselves through school and working 2 to 3 jobs while raising kids and are only available on Saturdays or on certain days, but they are, in fact, looking to date on those days, it's like, don't even bother. All right. Because they're definitely not going to be available every Saturday or every one of those days. What's going to happen is that you'll end up going weeks or even a month at a time without seeing them. And it is going to be mostly just a text-based relationship. All right. So don't even bother with students or these strong, independent, career-driven, workaholic women. they are already married to their work. All right. Any girls who are in college, they're just not available. Okay. I've tried dating girls who are in college, and I was lucky to see them once a week or every other week, and would end up sometimes going 3 or 4 weeks at a time without seeing them. And it just wasn't a real relationship. We could never really make progress in getting to know each other at that rate. All right. So it would last a short handful of months before I realized, this girl is just, not available enough. Another one is having touch issues. Acting weird and neurotic about being touched and recoiling every time you touch her, or telling you point blank she doesn't like to be touched and asking you not to do it. These women are obviously incapable of physical intimacy. And, I'm not sure why they even try dating, why any guys even try dating them, but it happens. And they really shouldn't even bother putting themselves out there until they've gotten therapy and gotten over whatever issues they have. Who knows why they are even bothering attempting to date and what they plan to do, for physical intimacy as dating progresses, if it even could. But I imagine it's going to be really weird and uncomfortable, and that you'd have to act like their sex therapist and potentially end up getting false rape charges. Another red flag are them ever using phrases like real man or gentleman or provider to refer to the type of man they are looking for, or that you ought to be when dating them. These are signs of soft misandry that show that she views men as simps whose only role in her life is to cater to her and act as her servant and just do whatever she wants, and that she is going to routinely try to manipulate your sense of manhood and how you identify as a man in order to make sure that it serves her purpose and not your own. Another red flag is addiction. Being addicted to anything at all, including common little things like cigarettes, playing the lottery, sugar, cell phones and social media, and porn. And yes, women can get addicted to porn too. Any addiction mean that they are already basically committed to something that has emotional control over them, and you will have to compete with it and will lose because they've pretty much married themselves to it, right? And they will also be very severely unstable and prone to drama due to this addiction too. All right, so just don't fuck with girls who are addicts of anything. And then another big red flag that most guys ignore is women who are big on social media. If they are very active on social media and have literally thousands of selfies because they take one every day, along with pictures of everything they eat and every place they go, you are dealing with a woman who is not only addicted to her cell phone and social media, but is also both an NPC and a narcissist who certainly has other mental health issues too, since social media is a mental illness machine, and you should really run because she's not a real person. You cannot have a real relationship with her or even good sex. And keep in mind that she is not going to look in real life like she looks on social media. All right. So stop cyber stalking her and find someone else. All right. In fact, I just learned from the book, The Narcissism Epidemic, that I'm reading, that anyone who has created a social media profile and spent over a half hour working on it is 74% more prone to narcissistic traits than those who didn't. And when I Googled studies showing that social media causes mental illness, I found that there are literally countless of them. So many that they actually have to be categorized in large numbers into different separate categories. For instance, there are 50 studies across 17 countries on just the body image issues that it causes alone. All right, and most of that was just in women too. And so that's not even beginning to delve into all of the different studies showing that it causes very common things such as depression and anxiety, which we all know about. And so there's way too many studies for me to even begin to list. And like I said, they go by category. So if you're interested in seeing them, just Google them yourself by specific mental health ailment. But suffice it to say here that social media is truly a mental illness factory, and that anyone on it is highly likely to be mentally ill and severely unwell. So in my eyes, being on social media at all is a red flag, and you might want to do what I did a couple years ago and just get off of it completely and stop associating with anyone who is even on it at all. And just socialize the old-fashioned way, like I talked about in my recent series on the 1900s. Because back then, we actually had good dating lives and relationships, unlike now. And it's really all due to social media, which has ruined every aspect of social life altogether, especially dating. But moving on, the next red flag is religious and spiritual women. These women are even more delusional than most girls are, which is saying a lot. And they can break up with you completely out of the blue, out of some totally irrational spiritual premonition. Like one girl who texted me one night to say that she missed me and wanted to see me again soon. And then the next day she texted me to tell me her, quote, spirit guides told her to break up with me. Yeah. Many of these women are actually more prude than the non-religious and spiritual ones, and will be trying to make you wait for sex, sometimes until marriage, even if they've already had it before with other men before you, but a lot of these women are not actually more pure in any kind of sense of the word, and are just using religion to put on a good girl mask. And it's basically like a cope. So don't fuck with them. These women are really fucked up. They're not actually good girls. All right. Another red flag is still being close with any ex-boyfriends, seeming hung up over them, keeping them connected on their cell phone or on social media, keeping in touch with them, or ever comparing you to them. Like if she's bringing up an ex at all, it better be in the right way. Okay. But if she seems like she's still thinking of him, still keeping in touch with him, that's just a red flag that you need to keep on moving, because she's obviously not over him. Or the next red flag is having crazy exes or bad relationship and breakup stories from the past. So if they speak badly of all of their past relationships, that might seem the opposite of what I just said, and like it might be a good thing, but it's not. Even describing many of their exes as crazy, and then maybe refusing to tell you the full story, or if they seem to have been the victims of many exes, like they're making themselves out to be victims of so many guys they dated, like they were constantly in bad relationships or seem to have a bad relationship pattern from their past, and nothing that happened, none of the breakups or drama or anything was ever their fault. Yeah, this is a red flag. They're telling you stories, or they are choosing bad guys who are, abusive. If they're being truthful with you, they're choosing these guys because they themselves are mentally ill. Another red flag: having no sense of humor or a bad sense of humor. So if she doesn't get any of the jokes that you send via text message, unless you make it obvious that you're joking by saying LOL or using an emoji, um, and if you don't send an indicator that you're joking, she thinks you're serious regardless of how ridiculous a thing you are saying. You know, that's just really stupid. And I've met so many girls, countless girls like this, where they just don't understand humor unless you make it plain that you are joking via text by saying LOL and putting an emoji. You know, it didn't matter how ridiculous of a thing I was saying. Like, it could have been so unrealistic. Like, it seemed like it would be obvious I was joking, but it's not to them. Well, that means they're fucking stupid, and you shouldn't date someone that stupid. Or worse than that, if you make jokes to her, and this could be verbally, not just via text, if you make jokes that she then takes seriously and explains the joke back to you as if she didn't realize you were joking. So she says something like, well, it doesn't work like that. Or, well, that's not realistic, or that's not how it works. Or, you know, it tells you how your sarcasm isn't real, right? Like, isn't the real thing. That's a sign of either stupidity or autism, or just a complete lack of common sense, social intelligence, or something being off with this girl mentally, right? Or worst of all, if she doesn't laugh at any of your jokes, right, and just doesn't seem to have any real sense of humor whatsoever, that really sucks. And you know, it sucks that she doesn't appreciate your sense of humor, and maybe it's that, you know, it's your sense of humor and she has a different sense of humor, but I don't know, man. And even so, you know, maybe you shouldn't date someone who doesn't get and appreciate your sense of humor, you know, because it could be that your sense of humor isn't great and it's just not that funny, and you should try to improve it. You know, it's hard for me to say without hearing the types of jokes that you're making, but in my experience, that's not the case. Women have a pretty low standard for humor. You know, I mean, maybe your sense of humor is too intelligent or nerdy for her. You know, maybe she doesn't understand your jokes. And if that's the case, you know, if you meet a lot of, for instance, smart men who find your jokes funny, and then you meet this type of girl who doesn't get them or doesn't find them funny, then, you know, is that really the girl for you? Probably not. All right. You know, it's probably not just your specific sense of humor. If other people laugh at it, you know, if they get it and find it funny, you know, maybe it's her. Maybe she doesn't have a sense of humor at all, though. You know, maybe she's just not the type of person to laugh at anything. You might need to test this by, like, watching funny movies with her, seeing if she laughs at anything in them, or asking her to tell you some of her favorite jokes, or to tell you who her favorite comedians are, right? Or what types of comedy shows or movies she watches. And then you'll be able to see if she has a sense of humor at all. And if she doesn't have any, then case closed, right? And if she doesn't have a sense of humor, she's never going to be fun to be around, right? And you should just ditch that bitch, because women like this are a real buzzkill, and you cannot expect to have fun with them. Even if they're hot, you shouldn't even bother trying to have sex with them, because it's not going to be a good time. Believe me, I've tried with one before. Or if she does have a sense of humor, but the comedy she's into is really stupid and childish, then you're dating someone who is likely a psychological child, and you should just dump her, right? Unless you are one too. And then I guess maybe it's okay, just as long as you don't make retarded babies together. But there are women out there who will reveal themselves to be pretty much retarded through humor. Like this one girl who didn't seem to laugh at anything when I watched a funny movie with her. But then when I went to refill my water pitcher in the sink, and I just put it under the faucet and turned the faucet on, and then I went to, get something else or do something else, and I turned my back to it, and eventually it started overflowing, which I knew it was going to because I always let it fill till it overflows. She started guffawing, like burst out laughing, pointing at it, guffawing like she's choking on her own laughter, like like just the most overt guffaws I've ever heard, pointing at it like it was the funniest thing, like she was trying to alert me to the most funny thing she's ever seen. And when I looked at her like she was strange for doing so, she like tried to stifle her laughter but just couldn't. Like it was just so funny to her. And that's when I realized she was probably retarded and I might have fucked a retard, right? So obviously I couldn't see her again after that. Like you cannot be fucking retards, even if they're hot like she was. Okay, so don't fuck women who have no sense of humor or a completely stupid, childish sense of humor. That's just them revealing their very low level of consciousness. But then worst of all when it comes to humor is if a girl starts taking issue with any jokes that you make, or if you're watching a comedy together and they start saying that these jokes are, quote, offensive, that's the biggest red flag of all. Unless they really are like terribly offensive, like you are purposely trying to watch offensive humor, to see how she reacts or whatever, then obviously don't be surprised. But generally, her claiming that, these jokes are offensive is a sign that she's not only a buzzkill, but a woke one who is going to try to make issues out of things and subject you to these histrionic political tirades. That is something that you should just really hightail it and run from. All right. I've dated women like this. It is not fucking fun. Okay. Even if they're hot, it's not worth sticking around. All right. And then the next red flag are Philistines, which basically means if she is completely ignorant of or hostile towards the arts. All right. If she's a fucking Philistine and is not interested in the arts and only mindless entertainment like brain rot content on TikTok, or, these really bad TV shows that are made by women for women, or chick flicks, or really stupid stuff you see on social media, and she doesn't even have the attention span to pay attention to a full movie, especially if it's not one of these really stupid girly movies. And you try to watch a movie with her, and she'll be constantly on her phone and then won't know what's going on in the plot because she's constantly missing stuff, and will ask you to tell her what's happened or rewind it. Or worse, may even make painfully vapid comments to pretend like she's paying attention. Like, ew, he's so ugly. That's a real quote from a girl I tried watching a good artsy movie with once. She's obviously not going to be able to connect with any of the characters or the plot or anything in the movie, and that's not going to be any fun, and it's just revealing how stupid and immature she is. Or when it comes to music, if you ask her what kind of music she likes, and she just says everything, but then when you start naming genres, asking her if she's into them, she just says no to every single one of them, and then it turns out She only really listens to like 3 genres, like mainly pop music and hip hop and rap, and doesn't even know what any other kinds of music are, and just said everything out of pure ignorance, as so many women do. Like, yeah, that's a sign she's a Philistine and is fucking ignorant and stupid. Or worse yet, if you try to introduce her to something artsy and she calls it weird. Like, for instance, this girl who said that she wanted to be a singer and was into poetry. So I put on a Jim Morrison song that had been put to music by The Doors, his band, after he died. And, you know, it was one of my favorite pieces of recorded musical art and poetry. That is very special and meaningful to me, and she just said it was weird. I'm like, this is from a girl who says she wants to be a singer and is into poetry, and she's calling this weird. Yeah, that's a big red flag that I shouldn't be with her. She's a fucking Philistine. Or if you listen to any kind of music that is heavy, and, you know, when she finds out, she goes, ugh, no, I don't like screamo, you know. Even though that's not what it is. Screamo is a specific genre of music. And what she means is she doesn't like music where there is screaming in it. Though what qualifies as a scream, you know, it's just, but she obviously isn't mature enough to appreciate musical art and have these types of conversations, right? Or perhaps worst of all, if she acts like the types of art and entertainment that she likes are the only valid preferences to have, right? Or if the art that she's into, she claims, you know, is the good art, and that any art she doesn't like is all bad art or not art at all. These are all behaviors of an ignorant Philistine who should not be dated, much less procreated with. Another red flag, having opposite goals and values. All right. Don't try to make a relationship or long-term dating work with someone whose values and goals oppose yours. For instance, I, as an anti-theist, cannot date a religious or spiritual person. And as an author and social scientist who values language, I cannot date someone who doesn't read and doesn't speak proper English or write in complete sentences. As a musician, as you probably got from the last one, I cannot date someone who is a Philistine about music. And as an athlete, I cannot date someone who doesn't value their health or take care of their body. All right, so notice how each of these roles that I play in life has certain values that make it what it is and compel me to do it. And you probably have some too. Even if you don't think about your values a lot, you have them, all right? And you ought to know what they are. And it's better to not wait until your values are getting violated by a woman and you're getting offended by her, or worse, to realize this, okay? And the same goes for life goals. So, for instance, I couldn't date someone who was looking for an entrepreneur to start a business with or a travel partner to travel with, because my digital entrepreneur and travel phase in life is over, and I do not intend on doing those things again. All right. I would, however, like to be in a relationship with another musician who I could start a music duo with, and am not apt to settle down with a woman who is not one. All right, because that is a relationship goal of mine. So it's really important that you have someone who you have those shared values and goals with. And if you have many values like me, it may be impossible to find someone who you share all of them with. You should at least share the most important ones. Like, the core values. And they should, at the very least, be able to respect your other values and not violate them or say things that are horribly offensive to you, like I illustrated in the last one about the Philistines. All right, so those are all of the level 1 red flags that you should be able to notice soon after meeting someone. And you can stay tuned for the next installment on level 2 red flags that you should be able to notice within multiple dates. And if you found this helpful, make sure you subscribed and that your subscription is set to all so that you can be notified when the next one is released, or you can check the description below to see if I've posted it there. And please donate at the PayPal link below, whatever you can afford to, so that I can afford to actually keep doing this work. And otherwise, I will talk to you guys later.